I'll go get it.
All right. That's we came on with Bob said I'll go get it. I don't know what that is, but welcome to another edition of GFB. Happy Thursday to you. Small crowd tonight, but it's always good people and it's always good times, and I appreciate those that make it a habit to be here. And I had missed Gregory and Julia the last couple of weeks because we've been off one, and you guys had something going on last week, I believe. So glad to see one of you, and Bob, you're back all as well. I think you were otherwise occupied last week also, but glad you can make it back to the space, and glad to have some people to talk to. And I think that tonight's topic, hey there, Julian, I think tonight's topic is one that Greg is going to have some good thoughts and opinions on. I just know that this type of matter when it comes to the human condition, living life, Greg, you often have some really good things to say about it. So the topic tonight, the best laid plans, is where you are, where you thought you'd be. I think it's a pretty interesting question when you ponder, your life thus far, to think about that navigation, the decision making, or what you didn't see coming, and what happened that you didn't have a clue how it would turn out, but you made it through it. The analogy that I thought of, and it's not much of one because it's actually for the purposes of kind of thinking about how to navigate the seas of life. When I was a kid, and I'm not sure if this will translate very much to everyone, but there were these little books, choose your own adventure books. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they were when we got books in for middle school, or wasn't, I think it might have been elementary school. You order your books, and everybody couldn't wait to get the choose your own adventures. And choose your own adventure book, you read some pages, and you would come to a decision. And whichever decision you made, you had to turn to that page. So the book was not linear. You didn't just read the book page by page. You got to a certain place in the book, and it would be, hey, if you make this choice, turn to this page. If you're going to make that choice, turn to this. And you would find whatever your choice was. And sometimes you end up in a pit with some snakes, and sometimes you would end up finding the girl, or finding some kind of gold, or at the end of the rainbow, or whatever the case may be. But it was a lot of fun, and those books were really exciting. I would love to put my hands on one now. I'm sure they probably are still in circulation somewhere. But that's kind of like what life is, right? Sometimes the smallest decisions can have the biggest impact. Hey there, Don. Glad you could find us. You're going to have to get back in one of these squares at some point. We miss you. But yeah, that small decision can have the greatest impact. And sometimes what you think is the most magnificent, I can't believe I'm doing this moment, can just be something that just takes place. So it's choosing your own adventure, so to speak. But there's a lot more to real life than turning to the page that you're prompted to. So I'll start with the randomness of my questions, but I'm definitely eager to hear the three people in the one square, you guys' input as Danya continues to work behind the scenes. But I had a friend of mine. I've mentioned him before, Greg, a different Greg. I'm sorry. Lived in Chapel Hill. He's a good guy. Bradbury was his last name, and he was a good guy. But he passed recently. And when he told me he was sick, he said, "Felton, I've had a good life. Don't worry about any of that stuff. I've had a good life. I've lived a good life." That meant to me that when he looked back over his life, he liked what he saw, or had some some appreciation for it, right? And I don't know his whole life. I only knew him a few years, but I knew him to be a pretty stand-up guy, and that's important to me. So we were consistent in our interactions. But when he said that, it left a lot. It left nothing for me to really, try to make him feel better about. How can I top that? Well, don't feel bad, Greg. Well, he just told me, hey, I lived a good life. I'm good. I'm okay with knowing that my time is up because I lived a good life. So I'll begin with a question for Julia. I see you nodding, and this question is for everyone, but definitely we'll start with Julia. And you guys just go around the room in the space. Once I ask the question, just take your time and unpack it. Since we got one square with three people. When you look back over your life, Julia, do you like what you see? And we'll unpack that even further as we go along. But do you like what you see so far?
I do. When I saw the topic for tonight, it got me thinking. And I'm extremely, at this point in my life, I'm extremely grateful for everything that I've been through. And I've had, do you know Brene Brown at all? She's done a lot with vulnerability and daring to lead. And she calls those moments of choice sliding glass door moments, like what would have happened if you hadn't opened the door or what have you. And I looked back and saw some pivotal points that in a couple of cases in my early years, I did not make good decisions, and it led me down one road. And then later in life, I made some good choices, and I'm extremely grateful and content and with where I am. We cared for people that were terminally ill for 7 years, round the clock. And the thing they regretted most, nobody ever said, I wished I'd worked more. I wished I'd, made more money. They all said, I wished I'd spend more time with my family. I wished I'd, spent more time or got in contact with that teacher. So we learned a lot from that, and I have tried to do that. Make sure people know that I love, that I appreciate them, and so I'm grateful for where I am and just fine with the current.
Beautiful, and since you did it and it was coming up anyway. As you guys talk more through that first question, incorporate ideas about regret, because I think that is a natural bleed over. And I was going to save it for a separate question, but it definitely comes right into this field. So you can cap this off, Julia, with, do you have any regrets thus far? And, people always say, I don't regret anything. But as much as you try to live that, you got to have moments. Most of us have moments that we're like, I could have. So you alluded to it, so you can answer that question, and then everybody can do both and mix it up.
Yeah. So with regret, what do you do with that? Do you punish yourself, or do you take it as a moment and learn from it? And in the past, with regret, I punished myself and said, boy, did I screw up. I think it's something you can't dwell on, especially most of my regrets from my very, my what do my brothers call it, my years when I didn't have any scruples. So my years from 18 till I met Gregory. some regrets, but it's okay. It all brought me to where I am now, and I don't have regrets anymore. You know, there were definitely things I do differently in this with this 63-year-old wisdom, but it's okay. I didn't. You know, I'm past it. I can't regret it anymore. I can't dwell on it anymore, and just grateful for where I am. And if I hadn't done those things, maybe I wouldn't be here.
I think that is a perfect way of looking at it. You don't know that regret doesn't become a burden or a cost. So where you are, if you're happy about it, and you can look back and find some good moments and some peaceful thoughts, then that regret may not even be a regret when you unpack it even further. Beautiful. I that was well said. Your brothers are mean. I don't like your brothers. Go ahead, Bob. We'll let Greg rotate in. I don't know if he needs to get a little closer in a moment. So go ahead, Bob. What are your thoughts on? Do you need me to repeat it, or you good?
No, I'm good. You know, I think I'm going to start with the regret piece, actually, and roll back to the other question, because I don't. To Julie's point, I don't know any value in regret. And what I can say is, if something had ever happened that I did that had a really terrible outcome, in the true sense of terrible outcome, in other words, somebody was hurt, that and couldn't recover. Something happened that couldn't be undone. Something happened that couldn't be corrected. If in that case, I feel like I would regret it. But I can say that nothing's ever happened that created permanent negative, lasting impact on anyone. And maybe on me, but on me is okay, because it's me doing whatever I did, right? So if there's permanent negative impact on me, then that's okay, because it's my life. If it were permanent negative impact on somebody else, that's what would be regrettable for me. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it has to be stuff that you learn from. And so I start there to roll into the first question, because I'm divorced. Did I expect to become a divorcee? No. Did I want to become divorced? No. When I looked out at my future that I expected to be my future, did I include, I'll get married and I'll get divorced? No. Do I regret being divorced? No. It was a good thing for my boys and me for that to happen. Do I regret getting married? No, because I wouldn't have the boys that I have had I not gotten married. So arguably, the boys are the best things that have ever happened to me, and that wouldn't have happened had I not gotten married. So, I look at life kind of that way. It's like, okay, you make choices and you make them with the best information you have at hand. I'll also say that over the course of life, I've decided it's not about the plan, it's about life. And because there's too many things you can't control, you can't control too many things to have a reasonable plan. You can have thoughts and expectations, you can make decisions at decision points, but you If it's about the plan, you're screwed from the beginning because you can't live your life, and the mission is living your life. And when I look at, has my life gone the way I expected it to? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. But even in the ways that it's gone the way I thought it might, or thought it would, or hoped it would even, my landing place is different with a lot of those things. And I'm happier with where the landing place is than what the landing place was that I had in mind. Because it's richer, it's more real, it's more legitimate. It's not about image, it's not about impression. And so, I think that you start and you have in your head a collection of things, but I think awareness and tuning in somehow to what the flow is that you find yourself in and trying to work that as constructively as you can and as beneficially as you can is a lot more important than the plan.
Yeah, I think you said you made some really good observations, and even starting with the regret piece, I think was spot on. I think the little saying, such is life, it's applicable to any situation, stub your toe, such is life, you win a lottery, such is life, it just happens because you're here and you're living, and that's what life affords you, just different things. I love your perspective on regret, though. And honestly, the only time I even entertain that word in terms of my life experience, there's a couple of them, but there's one that stands out above all others, and it is exactly in the way that you framed it. It involves another person. It's not just about me. And it was some years ago. I think it was like 2015 or somewhere in there. A relative, my cousin, him and my mother were super tight. Missed that guy. Name was Mike. And my mom was going. We were all supposed to go visit our great aunt, who's, I think she's 90. She's like 98, 99 now. She's up there, and she's still here, still with us. But we were going to visit her, and I was supposed to go. I had a bunch of car trouble, and at the time I was doing judging boxing matches. I was doing the apprentice route to that, so I had a match to do that night. Had to got the loaner car from the car dealership. It was just a pain, and my mother was going to come pick me up, but I said, you guys go ahead. I'm going to get a nap in before I head to Charlotte to do this boxing match. And right when I was about to lay down, my phone rings, and she's like, you got to get over here. Mike's not coming to the door, or Mike's something wrong. And our cousin went in the house, and Mike was on the floor laid out, and it was just all of this panic, and I could tell it was just not a good situation. So I get over there, and by the time I get there, the ambulance is there, and they're taking Mike out on the stretcher, and he did not. He was at the hospital for some hours, but he didn't survive. And the only thought I kept having was I was supposed to be there, and I worked at the Y. We had all of the CPR training and all of that stuff, and my mother was shook up. The person that was with her was shook up. Nobody was at a point where they could do what possibly would have saved his life, but I was supposed to be there. So in the realm of regret, Bob, that's applicable in my mind. But I can't dwell on it, can't beat myself up behind it, because who knows, maybe still the same outcome. But it's that moment of everything led up to me I was supposed to be there and I wasn't. So yeah, that's when you kind of look at regret as a different type of situation. So I get that, Bob. That was great observation. So Greg, Julia, and Bob.
I just want to say
Oh.
one thing about your situation.
Yeah.
The other thing is maybe it was his time to go. And the other thing, observation, I want to say about Bob with, maybe not following the plan. When we met Bob several years ago, he didn't know I'm going to say this, but he was very much, the Wake Forest, the intellectual, he was somebody, and in the past 3 or 4 years, we have seen him. Do you know the word dharma, the Indian word dharma? Okay. It's like he has found his real purpose with this advocacy work, from meeting you, Michael, the connections he's made. It's like he's a whole new person that I don't think he ever would have planned this for his life, that he would be so involved with the kind of race relations, the healing, the advocacy work. Would you have ever thought that this would be you've always been inclusive, but you've really taken it to a new level.
Involved, and that was never a part of a plan.
Yeah, right. So it's just, like you said, the awareness, the paying attention to what am I supposed to be doing? What is life really about? What am I here for? We owe something. We're not here to take up space. We need to be serving and giving back. And it's like Bob has found his niche, kind of. Okay, sorry. I overtook.
No, that's a wonderful observation, and I'm glad that you could share that. And Bob, we're gonna come back to you if you have any thoughts about what's being shared. Keisha, thank you so much for the comment. God has a plan and path for everyone. Yeah, there's something there. Greg, the bar has been set like really high, man. Really, really high. I don't know.
That's why I'm sitting in the back.
Smart man.
I'm out the door right now.
You're gonna just fade. You're gonna disappear. Stage left.
We're not out of here.
Go ahead, man. Let's hear your thoughts, man. I know you have some.
How about a nightly review?
Yeah.
How about if before we go to bed at night, we review the day, and that we make peace with it, or we learn something from it. And the other piece is, I know people that are journaling. They make a real disciplined practice of journaling, and I'd like to do that, and I plan to do that. So what makes regret, or at least review, positive is being able to review and take it to the point where we're not beating ourselves up, but we're learning something from it. We're sort of detached, a little bit of detachment from it, that we're observing a life that happens to be our own, but we're observing it, and maybe critique it, maybe not, but we're learning something from it. And we do it daily, and we do it nightly. I know some people that say they do a review periodically throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so they're reviewing what they're saying, how they're feeling, what they're thinking throughout the day. That's pretty intense, and that could drive some people crazy. But I think that the people who are more balanced probably do that throughout the day. They review. They do a review. I know that mouth, and Julia used an Indian word, dharma, which is purpose. Another Indian word is karma. And the mouth karma, when we speak, and the karma that can be created through speech is enormous. So if there's one regret or one lesson that I am taking seriously, it's mouth karma. and remaining quiet as much as possible. Never miss an opportunity to shut up. I don't remember who said that.
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Never pass up the opportunity
Roy
to shut
Rogers.
up. Or Roy Rogers.
Yeah.
Or Will Rogers.
Real Rogers.
Man, yeah, more great thoughts. I am a person who processes and not regrets, but as you stated, reviews. I do that a lot throughout the day, and I have never thought of it or confirmed it in the way that you just did as some type of practice that is meant to enhance me as a person. And I guess that's kind of what you're alluding to. It's an individual choice of mine. Yeah. And I did not think of it as a rewarding one. It can be a bit tedious sometimes. But yeah, it is a thing. And journaling, Greg, I recommend it. I'm not as consistent as I once was, but I picked it up and just tried it around 2013, 14, somewhere in there. And it is cathartic, very cathartic. It really does allow for you to kind of get outside of yourself and get something out that you may not have even thought was a thought that belonged in the space you were in. So it's a form of processing as you jot down whatever's on your mind for that day. And I limit myself when I do it because, as I stated, I'm always constantly reviewing, constantly going back over things. So I'll limit myself to a page when I do a journal entry. If I go beyond that page, it's very seldom, but I try to just keep everything that I'm thinking and processing to that one page. You'll find that when you go back at certain points and look at what you've written over the course of, at some points, depending on when you start and where you pick it up, years, you will see what Julia was talking about in terms of what she's observed about Bob. It'll be more personal because you'll see something you thought was just the end of the world, something you didn't think you were going to be able to handle. And 3 or 4 pages later, there's a new crisis, or there's something you celebrate, or there's a new possibility, or there's whatever. And that journal is critical, is a critical eye, as but it's not criticism. It's a critical eye. It's just looking at things, and you get to go back and observe, wow, where was I at in my headspace when I wrote this thing down? But yeah, man, I've not done it as much lately. And I find that in my mind, once I put it in there, it becomes more real. So I'll be honest, my grandmother's passing is something I know I've got to put in there. I've got to. But look how many months it's been. I know that when I do it, it becomes real. It becomes that much more real. So, yeah, it's a good practice, man. But yeah, this is wonderful thus far, and I didn't think it wouldn't be. This is the right crowd for this topic. So I'll give Bob an opportunity to have a couple comments if he does, or I'll go on to the next question. But it's go ahead.
If you don't mind, let me make this comment, because one of the things that I realize and that I've heard other people articulate that have caused me to reflect and further realize is that when you begin work, if you get married, if you have kids, for a lot of dads and a lot of mothers too, they get involved with coaching sports and doing other things, being actively involved in their kids' lives in different ways, and in addition to doing their business work and whatnot. And you get really busy and you get on a train track that just carries you through a number of years based upon how that plays, how that goes. And you don't, it's hard to have the time or feel like you have the time to really reflect upon or think about what you're doing. You're just doing it. You're just doing it. And you're going somewhere. You're not thinking about where you're going. You're thinking about what you're doing moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And then when that train slows down, you discover where you are and you reassess or assess where you are. And it doesn't necessarily mean you are a different person. You might be, or you might now have time to do some things that you hadn't had time to do before, that you now can explore different things and new things. And I was having a conversation about that earlier this afternoon, actually, with somebody. My point to that is, when Julia and Gregory and I met, I think John was probably at Wake Forest. And so John was in school, Wake Forest is more present in my mind. But when John finishes school and moves away, and when Chase moved out, and then they both get married and whatnot, back to the question of plan, well, I never planned anything for after my boys were grown up and on their own. I never planned anything. It never had in my mind a plan for anything associated with when I could actually consider no longer working. I never planned to be a single guy in my 60s without responsibility for children. The question then becomes, what do you do? And I remember when you and I first met, one of the very first questions you asked me was, what was my agenda? That's another way of saying, what's your plan or what's your objective? I'd never been asked that question by a person that I just was meeting I had no agenda. It was a matter of, okay, let's go down this. There's something that seems like there's something here. So let's see what that and where that might take, where that might go. And other things like that. For the last few years, it's not been about a plan. It's just a matter of putting myself in places that are new and different and seeing what that says and what that turns into. And I have to say that has been very joyous for me. That has been it's also been highly informative. And I think on some levels, either does change me or makes me better realize who I am. I'm not sure which that is.
It's the latter. It's the latter. And your lack of an answer when I asked about an agenda or, what's your angle, that's the correct answer. And it's not my correct answer. It's not the one I was looking for, but that's the correct answer, man. Sometimes you gotta just be present. And if something interests you, then go find out what it is. Go see if that interest holds. Yeah, man. So yeah, that was the right answer. You don't have a plan. You don't have an agenda. You just in spaces where you feel like you should be, and you find out what's going on there. That's the only way you know whether you belong or not, or whether you want to fight that battle that may be in that space and what have you. Greg, I'm going to start this one with you. Hey, Lisa, thank you. Wish you were in the squares too. I'm going to start this with you, Greg. What are you not doing now that you should be? And if you need a moment, think about it. But what are you not doing at this moment or at these moments that you might have that you feel like you should be? And I noticed you mentioned policing your the powerful words that I agree that we have and we're able to do something with. But what are you not doing now that you should be doing? Is there something that sticks out?
Well, I might just start out by saying that I'm not sure these sessions need to be that personal. I'm not sure what the benefit of it is. So that's the first reaction to the question. What is our purpose for meeting as we meet as grown folks? Is it to be personal and to share personal things? And what is the benefit of that?
The vagueness, the vagary is fine. It does not, and I never, ever position this space to be something that makes anyone uncomfortable. So that question that I ask is purely answerable in the way that you're comfortable. So it's definitely not meant to be intrusive or personal.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's really not a question of comfort, though, is as much as purpose. What is our grown folks' purpose tonight? Is it to be personal and to reflect personally, and how does that benefit the group?
Oh man, I think that's the best benefit you can give anyone in a space where not knowing is and discussion is the only way to know. So being that tonight's topic is what it is, that question came to my mind purely based on our existence as one, and this being a place that you share based on the topic tonight.
Okay, well, let me play along then, and I mean that seriously. Let me work into this, what you created. And Felton, by the way, I'm very impressed with how you keep track of everything that's being said. I really appreciate that. It means you're listening deeply. And that's something that Reverend Nelson Johnson, speaks of often, is deep listening. And I appreciate your deep listening. Going forward, life is shorter going forward than it has been in the past. I'm 67 years old now. Don't know how long it's going to go. So I think about moving forward, leaving things better than I found them, making every effort to make every interaction a positive one, not being so stuck on results, immediate results, but thinking long term.
Planting seeds.
Julie can speak for me. The greatest thing that I have ever achieved is being married for 27 years to an angel. I have grown because of this.
Now your brother's dad.
I have grown because of this relationship. I am measured by the relationships that I have in this life, and they are good. I am grateful for the relationship I have with you and with Bob and with this opportunity that we have to be human together. So that's about all that I can really say about that. Going forward, I'm looking forward to being better every day. I have a mantra, and it's just one word. It's today. I repeat that word. Whenever there's a question, whenever there's a moment of reflection, I use the word simply today. And that's a reminder.
What you just did, in my mind, the purposes that you asked about, the surface level is sometimes the deepest level. You do not have to go uber personal. I didn't have to tell that story about my cousin, but the story, what you just told, is just as has just as much depth. It is critically important that, in my mind, that what you're saying you want to do every day, you do every minute, and you're doing spaces where it doesn't seem like it may fit, but you just probably, and I'm saying probably, I should say affirmatively, you just gave someone something they needed to hear, something they needed to bounce around in their mind. If it doesn't get to them through this live broadcast, they'll stumble across it 20, 30 years from now. That's what we're doing here. Having genuine conversations and being in these squares with each other when we don't have to be. we could be somewhere else doing something else. And look what lines we're blurring by doing this. Age, race, background. Man, I appreciate you guys just as much as you say you appreciate me, Greg, and maybe even more. I got a lot of love for you guys. I appreciate you guys.
I don't know about that.
I thank you guys. Yes. So, Julia, what are you not doing that now that you should be doing? Is there something that you like, man? I like you could be saying I've been meaning to plant those roses out front for last 3 years or whatever. I don't care. But what is something that you're not doing now that you should be doing?
Journaling. Y'all talked about that earlier, and that's been, I think this is my second year that it was like a New Year's resolution. I'm not real big on that, but journaling, and I'm kind of hit or miss with it, and I don't know how to start. And I've done some, but it's been very sporadic. But I do think there's a usefulness in, like you said about your grandmother, who you were so close to, that it becomes real. And there's something about when we say something or when we put something in writing, it has more substance or more meaning. And so journaling is something I should be doing, I think, and I'm not doing. But other than that, I'm kind of with Gregory that looking forward, being grateful, Bob talked about being aware of opportunities. Who was in front of us in line at the supermarket or, at Walmart that we might be able to uplift or so looking for just being open and aware to where we can make a difference, where we can have a positive impact on someone's life, where we can serve. And Bob and Gregory both do that beautifully.
I totally agree with that. I guess the way Greg divided it up, and I get it. I agree. I'm about connecting dots. I'm about trying to figure out how this person should get to know this person, or maybe they should never get to know each other, or maybe, you do what? I know somebody that could use your assistance or help if we can put that together. I'm all about that networking, and that's something that Portia and I we used to do it all the time. So it just makes sense too sometimes. Hey, that's what October 16th is going to be about. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, it's so interesting you said that, because we had the most beautiful Black young lady. She's probably 22, 23 years old. Her name is Nala Mohammed. Mm-hmm. And she worked on our tower gardens because we had some problems. So she is part of Afro Ag. And she knows Denise, Denise was kind of the coordinator for Portia's memorial service. And I said, well, do you know Felton? And she said, gosh, that name sounds so familiar. And I also asked Denise, who oversaw Portia on the Tower Garden thing. And she didn't know you, Denise, do you know Denise? Does that name sound?
It doesn't. Portia stayed and was still active and functional. I left the Y in 16. So this could have been, and I want to say I saw Denise in the video where she was talking about the Tower Gardens, but there's a gap, and then there's rollover and all of that good stuff that occurs. But that goes to show you, Portia's just she was connected to so many different people in so many different places.
But I think you all need to connect, because Nala is a force. She is a bright light, and so is Denise. She's older. She's probably you're between your age and our age.
Okay.
But anyway, for your
Yeah. Of course, and it always comes back around. Go ahead, Greg.
but
Nala is the class of 2020,
Okay.
and like Julia said, a bright light.
All
and
right.
she is all into community building.
Yeah. That's the part of the work. I mean, that's what we're here doing also. That's what I
we're
think.
doing.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the way I look at it. It's all one thing. I think I kind of lost my train of thought. Did we get yours? No, we didn't. Yeah. So what are you not doing now that you should be doing? I can mention again that split that occurred with Greg. Yeah. That part, I should be finishing my book, writing my book, and I'll wait for the dissertation. That'll take care of itself because I have to do that. But I have a novel I've been working on for a while, and I need to finish that. So yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Bob.
The question is a very interesting one. It can also include, what am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? And I think that if I don't know what I'm not doing that I should be doing, but I'm sure there are things that I'm not doing that I should be doing. I'm sure I'm doing some things that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm not sure what those are either, right? There are some things that come my way that I can dismiss out of hand. No, not doing that. Nope. Other things I could snag onto, right? Then there's this rest of space that's like, okay, what should I, what shouldn't I? And the honest answer is, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some practical life things like, I've got this little task I should do and I haven't done it yet, or that. But aside from those things, I think that's the thing is, I feel like there are things I should be doing that I'm not doing, but I don't know what they are. So I have to keep paying attention. And I'm sure there are things I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing. And some of that is because I was built on a platform of shoulds and oughts that I am perpetually trying to get rid of. And it's one thing after the other that I'm able to shed or whatnot, so that I'm not bound by that. And then there are other things that might be things I legitimately think I should be doing, or something makes me think I should be doing them, or something worries me that if I stop doing them, I don't know what that's going to look like. So I'm scared to. But I think that's, again, life, right? I mean, I think that's, again, part of what we're faced with,
Yes.
with living in this space.
Yeah.
And
routine, old habits, those things are familiar to us. They give us comfort at points. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes you go do that thing that like, I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. I promised myself I would never eat past midnight or eat this candy bar that I know is not good. But there's something to be said for comfort and coping. And for a whole nother conversation, we'll have another day. And Greg, I know you have some good input on that. But one of my biggest things is life is about coping, man. You have to figure out what gets you through, what gets you to the next thing, that what gets you through today, possibly to tomorrow, if it's going to be there for you. So I agree with that. To wrap this up, I'm going to go around, just go to the one square with all of the people in it, and just have one question, and I'll answer it first. What have you learned along the way? the thing that I've learned along the way is that procrastination is not a bad thing. I am a procrastinator, but I've owned it, and I have yet to not meet a deadline or finish a project. I have to wait for that moment of, ooh, I got to get this done. And I've written.
Wait for the muse.
Yeah, I have to wait for the muse. And a lot of times she just is sitting there laughing like he thinks he's going to do this early. He's not going to get this done until I say so. So, yeah, that paper that I wrote 2 hours before class, I probably got a better grade than the one I tried to write 2 days or 2 weeks before. So I've learned to embrace and not regret or beat myself up for knowing that procrastination is something that I do. So that's mine. What have you learned along the way, Julia?
That the things I fear are never, they just don't come about. So if I just take the next step and lean into it, it's all going to be okay. Talking about life-changing events. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 5 years ago, and it was devastating for our family, but it changed the way I think. I'm grateful for everything, and that anything I'm afraid of, what's the worst that can happen? And just go with it, and just be grateful for everything. And I'm so grateful for, I love what Mike said. I love everybody in the squares. Yeah. Donya, Felton, I'm sorry, Mike's not here. Bob, Gregory, love the squares. So
I concur that, and I'm so glad that 4 years later I'm getting to spend some time with you, Julia. And Greg, I was meant to make you a little jealous, just a little bit. So I appreciate you. I'll say something before I get to you, Greg, and this is because you said it, and it's on tape, it's recorded. You call me a good listener. You would be amazed at how many people tell you I don't listen. And I think I know why they say it, because I'm actually responding to what they're saying. And that's not what they want me to do. So I appreciate you acknowledging that I actually do listen. But go ahead, Greg. What have you learned along the way, man?
I think that what I have learned is that there's a thing called grace, and it's a real thing. And I wish more people recognized and acknowledged that in their lives. I've seen people experience moments of transformation, of trauma, and there's no other reason, or there's no other explanation that there is grace. And it's otherworldly, it's beyond human, and it's a gift. And we can make ourselves available to it. We can accept it. We can acknowledge it. And it can still take us by surprise. I recognize that in your mother, and I don't mean to be personal, Felton. I listened to her stories, and I listened to the women who were in the room as she told the stories. And I experienced a sense of grace when I was in that room with them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to be learned.
Everything goes accordingly. You'll get to enjoy their company, at least a couple of them, and my sister pretty soon. So we'll take that off air, not too personal, but they appreciated you guys' presence just as well. It was a rainy day, but then it's like everything got calm for just enough time for us to enjoy each other. So glad you guys made it that day. It was a good time.
If they can come October 2nd, I know the 16th also, but if your mom can come October 2nd and your sister or whoever.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
we'll definitely have the ladder circled, but I'll mention the second, and that'll be I plan to be there for certain. But we'll play it all by ear, but we know that other date. Hopefully we can do some of the same, something similar. And yeah, they enjoyed you guys also. Bob, take us out of here, man. What have you learned along the way?
What comes to mind for me to say, and this kind of triggers off of what something Julia just said, but that showing up matters more than you ever imagine. And I don't know whether that requires more elaboration or not, but showing up, just showing up.
I think that's a perfect note. I truly do. Unless you have any more that you want to add, I think that's absolutely perfect. That is applicable in so many various moments and stages throughout your existence. Get out the bed and go and just show up. You don't know what's waiting for you there. I think that's a perfect way to end tonight's show. As always, I'm so appreciative of you guys for being here. I definitely look forward to us getting together in person again soon. And I'll be talking to Julia and Greg probably next week, and we'll start to solidify some things. Again, I greatly appreciate you guys. I've watched the sun completely go down in the background. It is pitch black out there. You guys take care. Be safe. Yeah, it's gone, man. You guys take care. Be safe. Have a wonderful evening. And I always, as always, appreciate your presence and your energy. Thanks so much. Y'all have a good one. All right.
We love you, Felton.